Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Grid Dialogues, a podcast show where we explore ideas, innovations, and strategies shaping the future of utilities. My name is Sudeep, and I am your host today. In today's episode, we are diving into an important conversation: AMI data for improving the customer experience and enhancing operational effectiveness. Joining me to discuss this today is Mr. Mark Henderson, President of Util Assist and a recognized leader in the North American utility space. Mark brings extensive experience in AMI, smart grid deployments, managed services, and utility modernization. Through his leadership at Util Assist, he has helped utilities transform operations, strengthen customer engagement, and navigate the complexities of digital transformation. Hi, Mark. Welcome to the Grid Dialogues. How are you doing today?
Doing fine. Thank you, Sudeep. Happy to be here.
Great to have you, Mark. So, Mark, for those who might not know about you, could you tell us a little bit more about your background and your experience in the utility space?
Sure. Yes, I started working in and around the North American utility landscape in 1998 and have here in Ontario, Canada, which was one of the leading North American jurisdictions to start on the AMI journey back around 2005. And specifically, I've worked as both a chief operating officer and a chief executive officer of municipally owned utilities here in Ontario, and now serve as president of Util Assist, which is a professional services firm that helps North American utilities implement AMI.
That's wonderful, Mark. So, let's get started with today's episode. And my first question to you: how is AMI really changing the way utilities think about the overall customer experience?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Sudeep, because I think in some ways the impact has come from outside of the industry as utilities have watched other consumer oriented organizations dramatically enhance the customer experience and come to realize we need to do the same because we are compared now against the Amazons, the Airbnbs, the Ubers of the world. And in fact, you'll hear in utility lexicon sometimes we don't want to be Ubered uh, in terms of the experience being so seamless, so effortless, and simple. And so, what's happened is utilities have had to come to terms with the idea that whether they operate in a competitive landscape or a regulated monopoly landscape, as is the case here in Ontario, customers have a dramatically different view of what the experience working with the utility looks like because it's been shaped by forces outside of the utility industry and are looking for much more than just the bill once a month from their utility providers.
Absolutely. I think you answered that, really well. And, then, I want to come to, some of the benefits. Like, for example, let's say billing accuracy. So, beyond just billing accuracy, what other benefits of AMI do you think are still overlooked by utilities? Because we see a lot of utilities talking about, improving the accuracy of the bill, but, what are those still areas which are overlooked?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different areas, and one is the consumer facing side, Sudeep, and the other might be internal operations and operating the network efficiently and effectively. So from the consumer side, if in fact the utility might be within a time of use billing regime, it opens up all kinds of possibilities for customers who are significantly interested in the consumption of their electricity within their home and may have an EV that they're plugging in and looking, or perhaps solar on the roof, all kinds of opportunities to draw much closer to those customers who want to interact in that way and really pay strict and careful attention to their energy consumption. On the other side of it is AMI and the data that it can feed back can certainly help to advance the operation of the network and provide insights into how to optimize the grid for superb performance, which in end benefits the customer.
Absolutely. And we talk a lot about aging systems, right, Mark? I mean,
Yeah.
there are also aging AMI systems. There are other systems as well. So, as a leader, what do you think are the important factors uh, which help these leaders to make those decisions that they should, now is the time that they want to really upgrade or replace these aging systems.
Yeah, it's interesting. In North America, we've helped organizations who we would say are on AMI 1.0. In other words, they've never implemented AMI, and this will be the first time. And then we are, deep at work with many utilities who are on what we would refer to as AMI 2.0, or implementing their second generation technology of AMI. Those who've just getting started are benefiting from, the enhancements in technology that have happened since early 2000s, when the first, at least in Ontario, generation of technology went into place. So I think it really comes down to what is the organization's strategy, one, and two, where might they be in their regulatory cycle? Because obviously, you have to get these kinds of expenditures approved by your regulator, and you have to have a credible business case that quantifies the benefit realization for not just the utility, but for the end use customers as well. So trying to decide whether I simply upgrade my current AMI system, or whether I choose an alternate technology path and take down my existing system and replace it with something new. We've worked with people who've done all of those things. And it really comes down to what's most important to the utility. What do they value? Is Are they satisfied with the current provider? Are they getting what they need? Is the supply chain working? Because the cost of replacing aging infrastructure continues to rise, and sometimes meters could be hard to come by. Or is using AMI as a backbone of a grid modernization strategy more important? And therefore, perhaps I'd like to replace my existing AMI 1.0 technology with something that's newer and perhaps has benefits and functions that we believe as a utility will be beneficial to us and our customers. So you really have to understand, what are you trying to do as a utility? What's most important to you and to your customers? And then make the right decision based on what those criteria are for you as a utility.
Absolutely. So well said, Mark. And we have also seen that when you talk about the success of a AMI project, right? Many a times integration is how you define the AMI success. But how do you see other systems, like it can be CIS, it can be MDM, or customer systems working together in order to create real value for these utilities?
I think that is one of the critical differences between the first generation of AMI and the second generation of AMI, is that in AMI 1.0, at least I'll speak specifically to the Ontario experience, it was really about enabling time of use billing system, or billing a model here in Ontario. And it was really about getting the meters into the field and getting them deployed, and introducing the time of use billing regime. Uh, AMI 2.0 is all about integration. It truly is. It is about the interface and integration of the AMI platform with the ADMS platform, or the CIS platform, or the GIS platform. OMS could be any or all of those. And it is about enterprise integration and the availability of data to help the customer experience, the billing experience, as well as the operational experience of managing the network. So you have to consider integration as sort of pivotal. MDM system as well. You mentioned that almost always is in concert with the implementation of the AMI technology itself, the metrology of it. So integration, in my mind, is sort of really one of the central differences between the first generation of AMI technology and what we've come to call AMI 2.0 here in North America.
Yeah, yeah, that's rightly said. And since you mentioned about the field operations, or the overall operations perspective, how can digital tools improve meter rollout, maintenance, and customer service? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're talking about deploying assets that are going to go into the field for 15, 20 years, having digital tools to manage the complexity of the rollout, not just the installation of the meter on the side of a home or a business, which in itself can be complicated when you're dealing with aged
Right.
infrastructure, perhaps in a residential subdivision, or on the side of a commercial or industrial property, whatever the case may be. But tracking that, because it is all about the data. You have to know where those assets are. You have to know precisely which asset went where in order to be able to integrate that to some of the other systems that you're looking to do that with. So digital tools are critical for having a well planned, well thought, on time, on budget deployment of the metrology and supporting technological communications infrastructure. When you think about whether you're a utility with 20,000 meters or a utility with 2 million meters, having a well thought through, well planned, on time, on budget deployment is critical. And the use of digital technology tools to make that happen, vital.
It's great that you spoke about the timeline of these implementations, on budget and on time, right? That brings me to my next question. That it is often seen that AMI rollouts are taking years to get implemented, right? And so, what are the quick wins that utilities should really focus on early on, rather? So what do you think on that?
Yeah, I think, well, one of the reasons I think that uh, utilities need to pay attention is because the regulators are watching, and they want to see. I mean, they don't expect. I don't believe that it has to come in precisely at the exact number that you budgeted. That's not realistic in today's complex world. But having said that, they want to know that it came in roughly on time and on budget. And to your point, I think the early wins are the better the plan up front, the earlier you can begin to grab your wins, whatever your wins may be. Whether it's better truck rolls, whether it's enhanced data visualization for the customer experience, whether it's the ability to have your smart meters in the field providing a sensing like capability back to your control room. You need to have that started at the front end of the planning of what are the most important benefits we want to realize early on, and then as we begin to uh, implement and manage the deployment of the AMI technology, we begin to look for other benefits that we want to realize. So, and some of this, Sudeep, as you would well know, as an expert in the field as well, could be related to a smart cities implementation, if I can use that term, because we're seeing more and more of that here in North America, and I know around the world, where the use of the AMI technological platform is supporting a broader community or citywide smart city initiative that could involve smart traffic lights, could involve smart street lighting, and other technologies that are all available now off the backbone of AMI.
Yeah, yeah. So well said, Mark. And so, what about analytics then? Because analytics, I think, are central to AMI, right? So, how can it be used as a driver for better business decisions? I mean, what do you think as a leader? Because analytics is often still considered that it is just about generating a bunch of technical reports. But as a leader, I'm sure you would agree that it's much more. So, how can it be used as a driver for making those really insightful business decisions?
When you think about the sheer volume of data that becomes available through AMI, depending on the cadence with which you're collecting that information, it's mind-boggling. So you have to have a plan up front of what's the most important data. Is it the consumer-facing information that you want to make available because you have a highly engaged group of customers that are really managing and monitoring their consumption? They're concerned about the integration of perhaps their solar that they have on the roof and the EV that's plugged in the garage. So there's that whole piece of there are all kinds of opportunities to provide insights for consumers on the use of their uh, electricity. Of course, you have smart appliances as well, and we have leading customers that are looking at that. Then you have the grid side and the data that becomes available when you look at asset management and optimizing the performance of the grid and the data that you can have available to take data coming in from the AMI system and coordinate that with data that's coming from the performance of the grid, and putting those two piece parts together and looking at use cases to advance the operation of the grid on the utility side of the ledger. So I think analytics is the second probably central defining component of AMI 2.0 that I see different from 1.0. It's integration and it's analytics and the ability to run a much more sophisticated network for your customers and provide them with much more insightful data for them in order to manage consumption in the ways that they might want to do.
Right, right. And once you implement a AMI project, what happens is scaling across the utility requires more and more technology, right? So
Yes.
what organizational or leadership changes are most critical here when you think of scaling it across utility? Because for larger utilities it can be really challenging, right? So what changes do organizations or utilities need to focus on?
Yeah, I think the two that immediately jump to mind are a really good, robust portfolio capital spending system where they prioritize their capital spend and do that in a rational, thoughtful, planful way that aligns to corporate strategy about where they want to invest their finite capital dollars to integrate technologies to provide the best experience for customers and the best performance of the utility. So that's one, and the other big one, which will be no surprise to you, and not I don't think this is unique necessarily to utilities, but the implementation of technology is one piece. The organizational change management support to go along with it is so vital. And the reason that many technology implementations, not just in the utility space, but industry writ large, don't work as well as they might, is that the human component of the change is overlooked or perhaps not given the sense of priority that it should be. But you are fundamentally changing, business processes to a significant degree with the application of any technology, AMI or otherwise. And so if you don't pay attention to the human component, you could be in trouble. And lastly, you need to use well proven project management methodologies to be sure you stay on task, on time, on budget, because these are complex. There's thousands and thousands of detailed work tasks that have to be, executed over the period of a program or a large deployment project. So you need to use project management methodologies as well to be sure that you stay on point.
Absolutely, Mark. I think I love your answer with respect to the project management piece. And we all know how critical it is, right? I mean, how complex it gets and how critical it gets once you start scaling it.
Yes.
So, Mark, looking ahead now, how do you see AMI data shaping long-term strategies for building resilience, sustainability, and most importantly, gaining customer trust? Because in some of the utilities that we have conversations, we listen to these thoughts that the overall customer engagement and trust and credibility of the utility has been going down. So, how what's your take on it?
Yeah, I think we often in the utility industry do ourselves a bit of a disservice when we talk about customers as well. We have residential customers and we have commercial and industrial customers. Is yes, that's the large umbrella, but there are subsets within each of those groups that have unique needs and requirements that you need to understand far more carefully because there are a series of consumers who probably like me look at their bill once a month and pay it. Uh, I hate to say, and then there are those who are managing it, if not daily, hourly, because they're advanced, they're sophisticated, they want to know, they have a commitment to trying to leave as little a carbon footprint as possible, and so they may have solar, they may have battery storage, they may have an EV. So I think it is about understanding your customers as well as any consumer oriented company understands their customers, what's important to them, and being sure that you're able to deliver to that, but also understanding your utility and what's important to you to operate a world class, organization, a best in breed utility. Customers expect 5 nines or better reliability these days. It's just a taken for as that should be the standard, right? We never want to have our power go out, so you need to be understanding what is that going to take to run a utility using all of the technology available across the various platforms we talked about to run a best in class utility, because frankly customers just expect that these days. They get that from other parts of their buying experience, whether that's from their water utility, their gas utility, whether it's from Amazon, Uber, Airbnb, whomever. They get that, and they've kind of transferred those expectations over to the utility experience. Not every customer, but a growing segment of them, I would say.
I I loved it how you compared it with all these leading apps, these consumer apps, with Amazon or something. And yes, you're absolutely right. I think as us as consumers, we are all expecting the same kind of experience from any utility. It can be water, it can be electricity, gas, anything that we pay for, right? So wonderful. I think great. That's all that I have today for you. All my questions, Mark. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our viewers today, with our audience, apart from this?
I think it's just that when we look around the world and we look at economic prosperity and what that can do for all other parts of the human experience, recognizing that electricity sits as the foundation. Right? It is the foundation upon which everything else sits. So, as utility operators, executives, employees, we have to understand we have such an important and significant role to play, and we often joke that people don't really, pay attention until utility until the lights go out, and that's not really true. But in some ways, we have to understand that we are such a fundamental piece of allowing for economic prosperity to take place that we all have a role to play, and it's a critical, vital, important role, and it's only going to get bigger.
Wow, wow, wonderful. That's amazing, Mark. And thank you so much for sharing this wonderful thought with all of us. So great. It's been a real pleasure to have you on the Grid Dialogues today, and really thank you for joining us. We got some really great responses, great thoughts. That I'm sure that we would take with this episode. So thank you so much again. And for all our audience, if you enjoyed today's episode of the Grid Dialogues, or if you have anything that you would like us to cover, do let us know in the comment section. We are always open to understand your thoughts. And that's it from today's episode of the Grid Dialogues. See you all next time. Thank you. This podcast is brought to you by Grid, a platform helping electric, water, and gas utilities maximize the value of their smart metering and operational data. Feel free to follow us on our website and LinkedIn. You can find the links in the description below. And if you like this podcast, please do the usual: like, share, and subscribe to our channel.